News.mc on Monaco Info is brought to you by Monaco Legend Properties. Our exclusive interview with the personalities making the principality.
My name is Ernesto De Marzio. I'm head of private banking at the UBS Monaco. So I was born in Italy, in Rome, but I've quite a diverse background because I've lived in several countries during my life. First 5 years in Rome, then I moved to East Berlin for a couple of years in the early 70s. So it's quite unique because there were not that many foreigners living in East Berlin at the time. It was quite close. I was a young kid, of course, and then moved back to Rome. And at 14 years old, I moved to New York. That's where I actually grew up for most of my adolescent life. I went to high school and university in the States, and then came back to Europe to finish my studies and ended up in Monaco 25 years ago. And now it's been the country where I've lived for the longest time, very happily in Monaco, actually. I did in the US, I did a major in international comparative political studies. I come from a background in politics from the family side, and then a minor in economics. And then when I finished university in the States, I went back to Italy to take a university degree in political science. And my first working experiences were into politics. First in Italy, then in Brussels, European Community. By chance, I ended up working in corporate finance in Paris and eventually in Monaco in private banking. You know, my background studies was also always in finance, but I would say it was not my first love. You know, as a teenager, you always change and have different dreams, ideas, things you want to evolve with. Constant has always been for me politics in the sense of giving something to the place you live in, the country you live in, dedicating your life to other people. And I think, I love political science because, understanding how countries have evolved, how political systems have evolved over time, and actually can best service the people. But when I talk about politics, I think it's something that we can all do because politics is the way you live your life. It's it's the example you give. It's the little things, and you can always do it in a direct way. And even if you're an elected member of an electoral system, so I think the way we live our life every day. When I was working in Paris before coming to Monaco, I used to come to Monaco often for some business and pleasure. And occasionally I had a business opportunity to come work in Monaco. And I said, why not? So 25 years ago, I came to Monaco, actually with the idea of only staying 3-4 years maximum, because then I wanted to keep traveling the world. And somehow I got really attached to Monaco, and I'm still here after so many years. And it's interesting because I've really seen Monaco grow over these past 25 years. As I told you, I've lived in many different countries, always in big cities. Actually, it was the smallest place I'd lived in when I came to Monaco, but I've really seen it develop and grow over time in an incredible way. And Monaco now has the best of both worlds because it's a small city, it's a small town, but it's very international, very cosmopolitan. So you have all the advantages of a small place with the advantages of a cosmopolitan international city, even though it's quite small in size. And then let's not forget, everything else, the weather, the location right in the middle of Europe, and all the small important advantages it still has. As I've told you, I was in Monaco, I've been in Monaco for 25 years. So my previous experience was with HSBC. Then at that time, the group decided to exit the business in Monaco. HSBC decided that they were going to exit their activities here. UBS at the time seemed as the best option. When I joined UBS 9-10 years ago, it was a very Swiss-German bank. Most of the managers were Swiss-German, and I would say their approach was very Swiss. In the past 5-6 years, it's become very international. It's evolved I think in a great way. If you look at the management today in the UBS world, our chairman, he's half Irish American, or head of Europe, she's Italian. The management is very, very international. So I've seen the bank really evolve from a pure Swiss player to a very international player. And today, if you look at the UBS, our presence is very diverse. We're of course the biggest bank in Europe, but we're also the biggest player in Asia and one of the top banks in the US. So with a very international presence and a very international feel. For a European bank, for a Swiss bank, I would say we really resemble much the way international and American banks work. We've kept our Swiss DNA becoming much more international. We are one of the biggest players on the financing side in Monaco and France. We have a pretty strong appetite for financing. We do mortgages, we do structural lending, we do aircraft financing, we do yacht financing, we do ship financing, single stock lending. So quite dynamic in the way we help our clients with their financing needs. And often, the very few things we cannot do out of Monaco, we can do from the group. From a Monaco base, we can easily finance everything out of Monaco and France, and then we can cater needs across the world. We have a pretty strong team here in Monaco. We have a trading room, we have advisory services, we have discretionary services, which we work alongside our Swiss and Luxembourg colleagues. And in terms of financing, it's, we can access a very large spectrum of services. We have different teams that cater to our clients' needs. There's a very big philanthropy team that helps our clients with their foundations, if they have an existing one, if they want to set up one, so different kind of needs. And historically, our biggest partnership has been with Art Basel. We've been partnered with Art Basel for many years now. Art Basel has, keeps growing. As you know, there's Art Basel in Basel, there's Miami, Hong Kong, and just recently has expanded to Paris. It's something that we cater very strongly. It's in line with a lot of our clients. A lot of our clients are art collectors. We have an art advisory team that can help us also, our clients, if they want to set up a collection, if they want to get advice. So there's different aspects of different things that we do, and we can help our clients. There's another team which I find very interesting. It's women's wealth. So we try and expose finance to women who might not be interested at first. So, sometimes we find that, in second generation, there might be some heirs which are women and they haven't been exposed to managing wealth, or some spouses that maybe they're a bit on the side and they haven't been interested. So we try and cater their needs, and we try and make them understand how the finance world works, because sometimes it feels that something that's very far away and complicated, which is not the case. It's been quite surprising. We've done several events, so-called Women's Wealth here in Monaco, putting women together and discussing about finance, investments, what their needs might be. Women are better investors than men because they tend to be less emotional. One would think the contrary, would think that women are more emotional, but in the investment decision, they're less. Because the men, they tend to look at their portfolio every day. Women, they don't. So when the market goes down, they might not realize it. And then, over time, we see that if you're well invested, holding a well-diversified portfolio over time is a good thing. And so this less emotional decisions tend to profit women on the medium long term. We're very attentive to diversification in the way we hire people. I don't have the exact number, but I can tell you that there's several women in important positions in the bank. Our chief risk officer is a woman. There's several bankers, and in the UBS world also in general. So I think it's diversification is something which is very important to the UBS culture. There's a negative connotation around banks, but I would say the role of the banking system is very important in making sure that the economy runs well. It's a very regulated industry. It's very important in the way we actually cater our clients' interest, and banks, how they support industries. So the banking industry is very important in Monaco. It's evolved over time. Even though there's not that many international banks, and of course UBS is one of the most important international banks present in Monaco, I'm convinced that it will keep playing an important role in the way business is done here. The advantage of having international banks is that not only they have an international presence, so that's a good thing for such a small country as of Monaco, but it's also the fact that most of them are regulated by also different entities, different countries, so that's an insurance for how the business is done in Monaco. Monaco has been introduced into the grey list last year. We're convinced that the actions that have been taken by the principality will help us actually drive through this process quite easily, and hopefully in the next 12 to 14 months exit the grey list. And the Monaco banks are playing an important part in this sense. I think that most of us are audited by internal auditors and externals, and have proven over time that they're pretty well managed. There's a lot of international players which are already present. There's some that I know are looking to come into Monaco, and once again, it's an important part of the local business. On the crypto, we've always been very cautious. We like digitalization, we like artificial intelligence, and we're actually starting to adopt some of this technology inside the bank. So it's only the beginning. We're convinced that it's, the evolution is going to be positive for the world in general, and also for our industry. We shouldn't shy away from innovation. We should understand it and adopt it in the best possible way. Jean Nouvel did a fantastic project. We're very happy with the outcome, and what we've tried to create is a place where our clients can interact with the bank differently. So the top 3 floors have been dedicated to our clients. It's a space for our clients. There's a proper restaurant on the 9th floor. We have our own chef, and actually we can invite our clients to lunch. There's a bar on the 10th and a roof terrace on the 11th. And the idea is to make the bank live also, outside of the what we do every day, having clients interact among themselves, discuss. We're going to put a lot of content. As you said, there's many things that interest us, be them philanthropy, art. We're still a bank. We're still going to cater or investment needs of our clients, but there's so many other things that may interest them and actually create value. And we have some clients that have huge art collections, which over time have taken incredible value, and connecting them and making sure that we can look at different things with them. He kept the external walls, which are Belle Epoque, and he integrated a modern concept with the top floors, which have been added. Jean Nouvel is very good at this. He's done this in some of his projects in different countries. He's done the Lyon Opera, which is the same concept. He integrated a historical building with a new extension. Some of you have seen the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. It's just fantastic. So by using glass, the space that surrounds you becomes your own space. And when you're inside the bank, you really get the feeling. It's not a huge building, but when you're inside, you have the impression of conquering all the space around you. And the view is just incredible. If any of you have the chance to pass by, just make sure you ask of me, and I'll be glad to have you visit the bank. Monaco is quite unique. If you look at the banking world, most of the banks that are in presence today in Monaco have been here for quite some time, so there aren't that many new players. Of course, it's a small country, less than 40,000 people, so there's no space for 20 banks. And the banks that are here, I think, are doing a pretty good job. Notwithstanding, it's interesting, and some clients that are Monaco residents also cater their investment needs from banks which are outside of Monaco. I think it's a pretty stable business. The banks that are here are doing a pretty good job. The more Monaco will grow, the more the whole banking industry will keep growing with the principality. Monaco in itself, it's a hub of people from different countries, different nationalities, different backgrounds. And they live in Monaco and they still have interest around across the world. UBS is probably the best option for these kind of clients because we can help them, serve them for all their specific needs in Monaco, and at the same time cater their needs around the world, whether they have interest still in Europe, in Asia, the US, or different countries. So we try and fit their international needs out of Monaco. So as Italian, you can imagine, I love football, so I still play football with some friends and colleagues. And personal passion is gardening. I have a house in the countryside, so on the weekends I delight myself by talking to trees. No, I'm joking, by working in a garden. I have a big garden with plants, trees, and getting my hands dirty. The main reasons people come to Monaco is security. And then, of course, there's everybody else, there's everything else, from proximity to the weather, of course, the interesting fiscal setup. But Monaco, over time, as you said, became a quite cosmopolitan international city. It keeps growing, it's very dynamic, and I refer to Monaco sometimes as a country club. There's a local feel where you're comfortable, where you know people, where you walk around and you discuss with peers about anything, and at the same time it's quite international, cosmopolitan. The art scene is very dynamic. Every year the Grimaldi Forum organizes some fantastic art exhibits. The Monaco museums are also quite dynamic in their program. But there's several cultural institutions, exhibits, the opera. My wife and I are big opera fans, and the program is just fantastic. The Monaco Ballet, the concerts. So it's very dynamic for such a small place. Also, the advantage is right in the middle of Europe. So for such a small place, it's very dynamic, very international. And if you want to try something else for the weekend, you can fly to London, Paris, Milan, or even New York, and keeping a base in Monaco, you can access different places. So I would say it's a good compromise. As I said, I've always lived in very large cities, bigger capitals. I was not convinced I was going to stay this long in Monaco, and now I really have a hard time finding a place to replace Monaco. I've really grown attached. I think it's the quality of life is incredible, and it resembles very much what you can get from bigger cities. Home is really Monaco. It's been for many years. I have 3 kids. All of them were born in Monaco. They were schooled in Monaco. So I really feel at home in Monaco, and I envisage myself staying for the rest of my life here. And once again, it's very international. It makes you feel at home. If you're Italian, if you're English, if you're German, whatever nationality, if you're Swiss, you really come to Monaco and easily you feel at home. It's quite interesting because it's really a feeling I've had when I went to New York. I would say the same feeling. When you go to New York, in a very short time, you feel that you become a New Yorker. So the city really attracts you very easily. I think it's the same for Monaco. And I've noticed with people that come to Monaco, after maybe at the beginning they come from bigger cities, they're a bit skeptical, and I can assure you that after a year, most of them are convinced and hardly will decide to actually go back to a different place.
That's all for today. Thank you for watching News.mc, your English rendezvous on Monaco Info. Discover more interviews and stories on our websites, news.mc and monacoinfo.com. This show was brought to you by Monaco Legend Properties.